The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Super excited to be here with Marcos Fernandez, Catmac, an extremely inspiring and high-level artist. He's been doing it forever. One of my first inspirations, one of my favorite artists around, and we're super excited to have him on the podcast. Welcome, Marcos.
Welcome, Alan. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, it took us a long time, but we did it. We're here. And look at this amazing setup that Marcos has for us with the visuals in the back. This is a first for the visual cast, so it's very exciting. Okay, we're gonna jump right in. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Catmac. You have inspired a generation of VJs and visual artists and continue to offer loops for free, creating an even bigger avalanche of inspiration and enabling future generation of VJs to have a super high level starting point. You are one of the most prolific artists on the Resolume store with 12 fully featured top-selling loop packs and over 500 free loops on Vimeo. You're an absolute noise and displacement god, and watching you over the past years get into photoreal 3D has been an absolute treat. You create immersive content for massive brands that have been an active MoGraph artist for more than a decade. So, Marcos, what is the feeling to know you have inspired, catapulted careers, and probably have your content being played somewhere in the world right now?
I'm very proud of it. But most of the time I forget it completely because it's then make that feeling a little bit stranger because from one side I know that all that things are happening like from 10 years ago, since 10 years ago, but in my daily life there's almost no. I'm just working alone at home most of the time, and from time to time I go to a festival, I go to make visuals on a party. But it's kind of mixed feelings because it's not bad feelings, but most of the time for me it's like I was alone in the world, working from home. But it's a nice feeling to know from time to time that I am helping so many people, and I feel very proud of that. And my idea is to keep on doing the same thing, even with this AI avalanche and all the changes living right now. But my idea is to keep doing so and see what happens in the future, because it's like 10 to 12 years sharing loops, and then I can quit doing so because it's not profitable. It's like many people told me that, but at the same time it's 12 years, and then I think I should not stop that because it's a very long time. And seeing that I can help so many people, but I want to keep on doing it. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's multi-generational at this point. Like I started VJing almost a decade ago. I first used your visuals, your original first pack. I can't remember what it was called now. I actually had it up last time we tried this.
Alucinogene.
There was Lucid Light. There was Lucid Light, which was one of them, or Light. I'll find it. But yeah, I mean, I used those packs for most of the beginning of my career when I was doing loops, and it was kind of like synonymous with like visuals, like the style and kind of like the like this is what a loop should be. It's got the texture, it's got the movement, it's got the loop, and as you progressed with your talent and your style, it was the pack started getting better and better and more like deeper, I would say, if that's a good word to use. And I think it's multi-generational because I see now VJs that are just starting out using your packs. And when I say Catmac, it's like it's not only my generation that knows what that is. It's like also the people that just started, in the past 2 years. So you should be proud. It's a massive honor for me to have you here. And obviously, we met in person and it was great a while ago. It was a really starstruck moment to know that the person that I was talking to was you. I remember the feeling, and it's just awesome. So I wanna go back to your early life and kind of understand a little bit about you and where your inspiration comes from. You grew up in Spain, is that right?
Yes, here in Madrid, in the same place that I live now.
Nice.
The same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood.
I came back.
Wow.
Yeah, the same neighborhood. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I was living outside this place. It's a big district in Madrid, at the south, like a working class neighborhood, the typical working class neighborhood here in Madrid, as in every Spanish country city.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 2 years since I came back here. Not the same place, exactly the same place, but very close to where I spent my childhood. Yeah, I got some friends here. I get
That's
my
so awesome.
brothers here. Yeah.
So your family's still there?
Not all my family, but I got some brother living here, very, very close to me, and my grandmother is also living in the city.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But listen, it's place. Yeah.
It's a nice place. Well, it must be if you stayed there for this long, right?
Yeah.
And did you grow up in a family of artists? Were there people in your family that were kind of no working class?
No, not at all. I mean, when I was a child, I knew very early that I had to study a lot. I mean, my plan and my family's plan for me, they allowed me to do whatever I want, but me and my family expected that I was I will be a good student, and I wasn't a good student, but I don't know how I managed to get good how you
Grades.
say, will you grades? Yeah.
Great, yeah.
And then I get to the university and I choose psychology because for some reason I wanted to be psychologist, therapist at the beginning, like, in my romantic idea of being helping people with their psychological issues,
with problems, therapy.
Then I studied psychology and I did it very well. And once I finished my grade, my university studies, I jumped right to the research field. So I was very lucky because I got a grant from the government when I was 25, just at the end of the grade, and then I spent 5 years doing research at the university. I went to Amsterdam to make part of my work. And then I went to congress and write some scientific papers. I was full into the science world, and I was also very interested in the science itself. I had to. I gave some courses about philosophy of science in the psychology, in the faculty of psychology, to the psychology students. But at some points, the grant went over,
Finished.
and then I had the, I had, yeah, I could keep on working on my thesis and finish my thesis and publish it, but nah, I decided to quit. No, not only because there were no money to get to keep on, but because I feel like a very completely lost in the on that time. Maybe many factors, because of many factors, but at that time I feel that first of all, that doing research at university was like a bubble, and you live inside that bubble. I got that. I had that feeling of, well, I need to know how real life is, how to make your own money. And then a very bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. Especially going into arts, right? Like, oh, I'll figure out how to
really
live life and be an artist. Oh, great idea.
Yeah, but now I know what is like to be to live as an artist, and it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
And then when I finished my PhD, or I didn't finish my
Graduate.
thesis, but so I quit, and then I decided to be an artist. My initial idea was to be a photographer because I love photography. And then I started to play around. I bought a camera, a good one with good lenses and so on. But it doesn't look so good to find a way doing photography. Probably because I have no art background. I mean, I have always been interested in arts, classic arts and contemporary arts, from enthusiast perspective.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I like art like everyone.
So
should.
So no, like nothing like as a kid, like no drawing or like something.
I have a There is something funny about that because I didn't draw. I didn't paint anything, but at some point during my grade in psychology, I started to draw with my pencil. Honestly, I started to draw on my table because I was bored.
Oh, like doodling.
Yeah, listen. I started with. I remember doing my first drawing was when I was like an Escher style drawing, because I started drawing my hand from the tip of the pencil.
Oh,
like I started drawing the pen hand, and then my arm is like, oh, this is funny because and then for some months I started drawing from it was like from zero to nothing, but I did hyper realistic style. And I showed my drawings to some people who had the artistic background, and they couldn't believe. I didn't.
You have no
believe
background.
The things that I do. You can have a look at those images, because in my Facebook still exists. I got an album.
Okay.
Where you can see my drawings. It's like 5 drawings.
Okay. I saw one in your ArtStation.
You got go there.
I can open that one up.
Yeah, in my ArtStation too. Yeah.
Okay, let's check it out.
5 drawings. So those 5 drawings, I made it in a row, and I was obsessed with the
These are amazing,
act
dude.
of drawing, and I found that it was completely trivial or not difficult at all to make something realistic. I discovered that if I had time to do some to draw something, I could.
You could.
It could be water. It could be clothes, hairs.
Interesting. And this is, so did you take a class, or did you follow like a tutorial, or it was just like natural? Naturally, you just started doodling and...
Just taking the pencil and
it's
start
the eye.
drawing.
You have this eye. And okay, I know I kind of asked you already, but was there a person in your childhood or your young age that you were inspired by to do something like this? Because like, okay, your insight. Sorry, yeah.
My nephew,
My ne-
uh, mm, my nephew. No, my nephew is the no. Is
your
maybe not.
uncle.
It's not. My uncle is. I always forget those names. Let's be so those words, man. Uh,
Your dad's brother or your mom's brother?
cousin,
Cousin.
cousin,
Okay. Cousin.
cousin. My cousin is 10 years older than me,
Uh-huh.
and he started to draw, to attend some courses,
Uh-huh.
to present us the results, and I was, oh yeah, oh, this is nice. But apart from that, all this drawing thing was just 1 year,
Just
less than 1 year,
amazing.
making these drawings. Some people offered me to work drawing, making portraits, but I was at the university at that time, and then I decided not to. Yeah, I just quit drawing. I know now I see those drawings, and I think, oh, I should keep on doing that.
Yeah, I mean they're really good.
Being my first drawings is like, yeah, I could have a good career and this
Yeah.
kind of.
I mean it's probably
of
the same game of like art career, you know. It might even be more difficult, but actually maybe now it's turning around and being able to draw is more valuable than computer graphics, you know. But
yeah.
that's really interesting. Yeah, I always find like there's people, even if it's not like a parent or somebody, like there's always somebody in somebody's life that inspired them to maybe like try something or look at something. You know, it's very rare that people just do it. You know, they always saw somebody else doing it. I think it's kind of like a very human kind of thing.
Yeah.
Super fascinating. So you studied psychology, and you decided to get into photography. So what kind of shifted you from photography to VJing? I know that you started doing MoGraph in 2013, and there was kind of like a little bit of a period where you didn't do VJing. So I guess before we get to VJing, what kind of shifted you from photography to MoGraph? What got you into MoGraph?
But actually, before doing photography, I started doing VJing, because this is
Really?
in 2007. I started living in Madrid, in the center, in a big flat with 7 people. It was a very crazy time,
Sounds fun.
and when I was like at the third or fourth month being there, a friend of mine who invited me to live there started doing visuals in a building in front of our house. He just put the projector on the window and just it projecting on the building in front of us. And then I saw that and immediately think, okay, I want to do this, but just as a hobby. So
Right.
from 2007 to 2000, I quit at the university at 2011. Those 4 years, I was doing VJing, mostly at home, but at home we did very
Crazy stuff.
nice parties, because it was a very big house, and we made parties there with like
Nice.
100 people
Yeah,
or so.
yeah.
So when we put a lot of stuff, it was like a rave,
Yeah.
but in the house.
Yeah,
Many
yeah.
people go there and thought they were not in a house,
In a
but
house,
in a club. So I got some background, and yeah, so I started doing VJing and I knew all these visual things before
You knew it before.
trying to be a photographer.
Gotcha.
So from 2007 to 2012 or so, I was using Resolume, the old 2.4 Resolume.
Oh my god. No Control Z.
Yeah, with No, no, at all. I think the Control C option is
It's new.
very recent.
Yeah, it's new. It's new.
It's
Control Z is
new.
a few years.
It's the last application in the world.
Yeah. Control Z.
At the beginning, I thought it was like, oh, there is some
A bug or something.
very deep problem,
Yeah.
and this should be like that. But now it's it called Control C. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, but it forces you to be so careful with
Careful, super careful.
with the Resolume. Yeah.
Super fascinating.
Yeah.
So, and then what was the shift to like digital? So you kind of were already playing when you were doing the visuals in 2007, 2011. Were you making content, or were you just kind of finding stuff online and loops and things like this?
Yeah, at that time, I didn't use any software. Not even After Effects. I remember I was using Premiere, like to mix some videos that I made with my camera,
Wow.
my phone camera. Also, the mini DV cameras, these all digital cameras.
Yeah.
For at that time, we had a camera at home, a Sony camera, mini DV camera that has a mirror effect.
On the camera?
That built in the camera, there was a mirror effect.
That's so great.
And then we discovered that connecting the camera to the screen,
You do live.
not only get the regular feedback, but with the mirror effect, it
It's
started to make
super
crazy
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
And that feeling, I remember that feeling of connecting a camera to the regular TV with the mirror effect, and it was like amazing. But and then it was very sensitive to the movements. You were like you do with your hands, like, and also colors, and very like weird colors.
Put a little light in the camera or something like that.
Yeah. So fractals, like you do fractals with Resolume, the same kind of fractal. Yeah, the video feedback is a classic. And we discovered that without knowing. It
Yeah, just by mistake,
try to
right?
It's like what a thing, man.
Amazing.
What a funny machine. Yeah.
It's amazing that you have this experience with feedback, right? From like actual feedback. It's a very unique perspective, because I mean the digital feedback works more or less the same, right? I mean, in some manner, but it's understanding it on the level of like, oh yeah, if I move the camera a little bit, it's gonna change the feedback, or if I put a light, it's a very it's a deeper understanding of it. Okay, so I get it. So you kind of like were experimenting a lot. You got into photography. What was the shift to digital? Like, what was the shift to like, I want to make content?
In 2012, for like 6 months or so, I started to crawl to stole basically a lot of content from the internet to make my sessions, because
it's a strong word.
Yeah, we can say
borrow,
stole, but
borrow.
not, borrow as well. Yeah. And during 6 months, but because at that time I was like figuring out how to live out of photography, but at the same time I was thinking that I could make something related to visuals. I don't know, because apart from going to some place from time to time, I didn't know. So I started doing sessions in Madrid, and I met some people who were making parties in Madrid, and I started I became their official VJ. Yeah, and then I start like touring Madrid, my little clubs and so on. And at some point, I knew about, for instance, Beeple.
Yeah, of course.
I was using their loops at that time. By the way, I was mixing like borrowed loops and because I was also trying to get deep into processing. You know, processing is like a programming language. Very common in visual art. And in the Kinect.
The original, the Xbox.
Yeah. The box. I used the Kinect at that time, so I was mixing videos from other people
Mm-hmm.
and my own stuff with processing, but very basic.
Experimental, very
And
basic
then
stuff.
that was the point in which I decided to make my own content, to have
Mm.
because the people like the videos I use in sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so good. And then I feel like I was like cheating a bit
Right.
because
It's not mine. Right.
you
Yeah.
can take whatever. That's not right because now I share my content exactly for that
Yeah.
purpose.
Interesting how that's a very big interesting circle.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think
But
I think I think that like the
yeah,
circle makes sense because you only got to the point where you understood that you want to make your own content because you had good content to use. And then when people are like, oh, you're really good at that, that's really cool, you're like, well, I only just mixed it. And you kind of like wanted to do more, right? But you
yeah,
might not have gotten that confidence or that feedback from people if you didn't have good first source
yes.
material. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean, and I think nowadays it's the same for the people that is using my loops. They
100%.
start using my loops, and at some point they think about, oh, maybe I can try as to do my own stuff
Yeah,
as well. So
totally.
yeah. So at that, it's 2013 now, and a friend of mine gave me the opportunity to collaborate with some artists and some brands. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And then I had to do my own content, not only for my session, but also
For work.
for clients.
Yeah.
And then I realized at some point I discovered those platforms like Video Hive or Shutterstock or Point
Mm-hmm.
Five or even Resolume.
Yeah.
And well, the first one who contacted me about that was the BJ Loop founder,
Oh, the
Kyle
original one.
Lyons.
What?
Do you know that website, BJ Loops?
VJLoops.com? Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I don't know the founder. Who is it?
Yeah, it's Kyle Lyons. I can. I'm not gonna say anything because the site now is like
Is yeah, it's a little bit dead, right?
dead, but it's still
Is it the
working.
same? Is it the same guys that did the the Lime Art
No,
group?
Lime Art Group?
It's
No,
different.
no,
Different.
it's another guy. It's another guy.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Well,
A lot of guys.
he contacted me and offered me to go to the place to Valencia because at that time he lived in Valencia here in Spain, and he invited me to go there. And there I meet some friends, and then I start to realize that I could make a living out of selling loops. And
Nice.
before that, I never thought it could be possible to sell loops online.
Right.
uh, but then I started to see that there was a tradition, like from the late '90s, of selling DVD packs with loops
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
on. And then I realized that well, it could be fine to work at home, making my own loops and trying to sell those loops on the internet. And how you say the point of inflection or the how do you say
The catalyst.
the yeah the catalyst was a conversation I had with a friend of mine here in Madrid. This is now the beginning of 2014,
Okay.
and he told me about applying to Resolume. And then I write to some an email to the Resolume staff, and then they respond with a sentence that I will never forget. That is something like, "You have to send us something that make our eyes turning around, like something that make them freak out." Okay, and they said okay, and then I using After Effects and some plugins, I came with that first pack. That
This
at
is
the beginning
Lucid Dream,
I
right?
got this. Yeah, lucid dream is hallucinogene. I think they call it
Hallucinogene. That's the first one.
hallucinogene. They put the name. Yeah, I asked them to put the name. But I remember the feeling of getting the 2 or 3 loops and then realizing that, oh yeah, this is really
A
nice.
lot of work.
And then
it's really nice.
I don't hesitate and send them like a preview, and then they accept it. And this was like, oh, this pack.
Yeah.
This is one. Those are the first loops that I feel very confident about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that feeling of doing them.
This is an After Effects?
Yes.
Wild. Because my first my first pack that I had of yours was this one, was the Lucid Dream. Because it was
also After Effects.
Also After Effects? I guess
Yes.
the noise, yeah, but like these shapes, these like big shapes, After Effects? Wow.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
what is
Plexus,
it? It's
I
like
think.
Plexus.
plugin? The famous Plexus plugin?
That makes sense. That makes sense. Plexus, yeah, just like with a few particles.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's wild. So you contacted them and they were just like really their eyes rolled back of their head and they're like, okay, this is good.
Something like that. Yeah. And then at that point, it was, I was very happy and I was thinking, I'm gonna make I found my place on
Your career.
this planet. No. 10 years later, I'm starting to have like a regular income from visuals. So 10 years later.
Was it a
But
struggle at the beginning? It was a struggle to sell the packs, even on Resolume.com. Like it was still difficult.
No, at that time.
Yeah.
You mean no? I had no other incomes at that time, and then it saved me because I remember in 2014 I ran out of money. I remember in July. I mean, I was thinking about going back with my parents and so on.
Oh no.
But then from that time, they released the pack in September. So I started to make money, like I don't know, like $500 or $600 per
That's a
month.
lot. In 2014,
That's a
I mean,
lot.
that's it's a lot, especially in Spain. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. So I could pay the rent. I also got some works for clients, and from that, I just make money with visuals. So it's but it has been very tough.
Oh,
because for example, I've been living in Mexico for 4 years. It's easier to live in Mexico because it's cheaper than in Spain. Yeah.
And you speak Spanish. It's like very easy. Where were you in Mexico?
In Guadalajara, Jalisco.
Guadalajara. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's a nice city. And I love the city. I have a lot of friends there, and I used to go there like once each 2 years to see my friends, and at some point I was thinking about living there for the rest of my life, but now I came back to Spain with my girlfriend, and I'm very happy now here.
Nice. Well, it's really inspiring to know that you kind of like were, not like to make it dramatized, but you were at a point where it was very low and the visuals kind of helped you get out of it, and then also made you a career that, that's a very inspiring story. I want to move on to a little bit more, kind of you as an artist and kind of what you do. And I do have a question here that, because I remember we spoke about it, and now that you reminded me that you studied psychology, I want to talk about the psychology of being a VJ, but in a moment. First, I want to go to kind of like your, the way that you take nature and technology and you intersect them. So kind of like, a lot of your visuals, not the earlier ones, but definitely the ones that you kind of, I would say like are famous for, like all the noises and the very, high rendered displacements. I mean, obviously, but maybe our audience doesn't know that a noise is really just a function of nature. It's a pattern in nature, whether it's Brownian noise, which is small little particles in the air, or it's a Perlin noise, which, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of wind patterns. When you take these things, when you have them in nature, you can quantify them into numbers, and then you could use that to make art. So it's a very beautiful thing, and me as a real-time generative artist, I use it all the time. How does that, where does that meet you? Like, what is the intersection of technology and nature, and how do you feel about that, about like noise and math being kind of, nature?
Yeah. I mean, it's a very complex topic. Yeah. Yeah, because we can talk about computer graphics in general. I have been always fascinated with those algorithms that replicates some patterns of life, like the game of life. Basic algorithm that fill a screen with shapes, just with a simple rule. And apart from that noise or mathematical approach to nature and art, I've been always fascinated with nature and especially with mountains and landscapes, and any kind of landscape is very interesting for me. Even from the desert to the mountains, I don't drive. I'm a co-pilot driver. I am always looking.
You don't drive? You don't have a license?
No, I like driving. I like driving, but I don't drive. I don't have a license. Yeah, I'm a weird person. Everybody's talking to me.
No, I mean, whatever. You grew up in the city, I mean, it makes sense in some way.
Yeah. I make a lot of journeys, but as a co-driver, no, as a co-pilot,
as a co-pilot.
Not as a driver. And I spend all the time looking. Yeah, I don't want to change now because I don't want to lose the chance of looking at the earth itself, at the road, at whatever. So yeah, this is on one side. I mean, but anyone in loves nature now, who is not gonna love it, and talking about noises and random functions. Yeah, it's I feel lucky to have those advanced developments in science that came before us, and all those people who write the algorithms to, at the end, for me, it's just to have fun with the random functions and so on. And of course, they are used to simulate nature. And I'm just using basic random noise function, nothing fancy. I'm not using simulation or nothing. It's just as we are.
This is like this one's like a marble, no? It's like a marble texture of some sort, like a Perlin marble of some sort. Just this one, this weird VJ loop.
This is the basic Blender built-in textures.
The cloud texture in Blender?
No, this is called a wave texture.
Wave
texture.
Okay, yeah.
Because this is not this patches. These examples are using the displacement function that's only available on cycles and the rendered cycles.
Right.
It's not the regular texture, but at the end it's just a basic texture combined with some nodes in Blender to get those results. So yeah, nature and mathematics are one of my main fields for inspiration, and at the end you got something that looks like nature but in your computer. And and this is like a very powerful feeling, no? Like when you are manipulating some data and it looks like something nature. It's kind of coincidence, but it's not a coincidence because we have been using as humans since like 8 decades, 80 years.
80 years.
It's kind of like from the 40s, like the middle 20, the last century, on the 40s and 50s. So it's a very commonplace in science to use those mathematical functions to simulate life, and then we all are using those principles that are at the beginning used to simulate patterns or to simulate chemical reactions, and and we are so lucky that we can use those principles now
to make art
in this in this way, to create art. We are privileged to
super
do
privileged.
so.
It's so interesting, right? Because I don't think Brownian or Perlin were thinking of like, oh, this could be used to make art. I think they're pure scientists, But I imagine that as they were developing this, I should probably research it, but I imagine as they were developing it, they probably had some sort of visualization, right? Like Conway's Game of Life wasn't an art project, but it needed to be visualized to see what he was talking about. I imagine that with Brownian and Perlin, it was probably very similar, where it's like, oh, here's the mathematical function, but also look at this black and white, texture that's like changing and shifting. But I do wonder who was like the first artist to kind of like take these mathematical functions. I guess like softwares like After Effects and all these kind of like motion graphic softwares use them. But I wonder if there was like a person who, originally like knew about it or was like involved in science somehow. It always interests me.
I guess from the very right beginning of there were some people interested in these applications.
Yeah,
I don't remember now, but maybe we can look on the internet for.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that.
pretty. Brownian noise is pretty old. I think it's from like the 20s. Let me just check just to make sure. It's from. Oh, it doesn't say when it's from. That's annoying. I'll continue to check while we're talking, but yeah, it is interesting, right? Because it's like. It's almost like a natural progression of something like that, right? Because if you think about like art in general, right? Like painting and stuff, they're always trying to paint and replicate nature, right? Like Van Gogh or whatever, all the guys, Monet, all these guys in the Renaissance, they were always taking pictures of the nature and interpreting it as their, with their filter, with their style. So it's kind of like replicating nature is a very kind of common thing. But it's interesting to think about like science involved in that, Perlin is from 1985, and I can't find where Brownian is from. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I think that you really, your art really speaks to that kind of emulation of nature through the eyes of an artist, like through your eyes. And, I was always very inspired by it to kind of explore, I think the concept of noise for me was very basic, like, okay, yeah, in After Effects you have the fractal noise, but I never really made the connection that it's like a math function until later on. I always was like, oh, that's a cool pattern, So, yeah, I think that connection is very powerful. Okay, I want to move on a little bit to 3D. Because that's really where you're blasting off into the next dimension. I remember I'm sure you've worked in 3D for a while, but I remember in COVID or during COVID, maybe even a bit before, you started doing like photoreal 3D renders of cars. I remember started seeing cars, and I remember asking you on one of your pictures like, "Oh, that's a nice render." I did not think for a second that you actually modeled the car. I was super for sure that you like bought a model, maybe retextured it, but relit it. Because before that, I never saw any of your stuff. So all of a sudden I see these like amazing models and I'm like, what the hell? How did you go from, these displacement noises to like all of a sudden modeling these like super high quality, high poly models? It was very blown away. I was very blown away by it. What's the catalyst to that? Like, what was the natural progression of going from this kind of, more traditional After Effects motion graphics to full-blown 3D?
I always felt that, of course, After Effects was not enough because it's not a proper 3D software.
Mm-hmm.
And then I from the beginning, I wanted to have time to start doing 3D. I used Cinema 4D for a while, like to do some very basic modeling, not even modeling, just regular
abstract
simple
things.
geometry. And at the beginning of 2020, before the COVID, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to forget everything. I'm going to focus on modeling. Like, it's now or never. I remember a moment in which I said, okay, I'm going to model. I want to model. And that's all I want. And then I started doing I don't know if you know, there is a guy in Blender, in the Blender community called Blender Guru.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he made like a meme about a donut, making a donut. And I made the tutorial, his tutorial, making a donut in Blender.
Yeah, the classic.
And then after doing the Blender, the donut. I was very happy. Like I showed it to my girlfriend. Oh, look at this! I'm doing a donut. And then the next week I started doing something else, like something that I had at home, on my desk, like a simple shapes. And then I said to me, okay, let's make a car. I have no idea.
From a donut to a car.
But from there, like in a week or 10 days, I started because on the internet you can find step-by-step tutorials on how
to make a car.
A car, Then I started with some guy from South Africa, I think, and I started. It takes a lot of time.
Dude, I can't even imagine.
I looked for official courses, and I found. In the Blender market, I found a course called, like model a car. It was a 30 hours course, 30 hours.
Wow.
I don't remember the name of the guy who made the video, but I completely love the way he did the tutorial.
His tutorials?
Because he was so clean, he didn't add anything that has not useful. Every word, it was like pure gold. It was do this, and then this, and then COVID started, and then I had all time in the world.
It's really good timing, huh?
And then I do the full course. 30 hours of video, so maybe it takes to me like 100 hours because I stop, doing. And once I finished the first model, that was the Corvette model, the Corvette one, the red one, I did it again. Exactly the same thing. I see all
the same
the
exact course
again.
from
and
the
I
same
did it
car?
Again. Yeah, again.
Interesting.
Again. So I did it, I think I did it twice.
Interesting.
It took me like a month fully dedicated to 3D, to learn 3D modeling.
Was the second one better than the first one, just out of interest, or were they the same?
Yeah, because once the second pass was like what I felt that it was something started to change in my brain.
Like a click.
With the second pass over the same topic, the same modeling. But the second time was like, oh yeah, because now it's different now. And then once I finished the second model of the same car, I said, okay, I can do whatever car I want. I don't drive, but I love cars. That's a very
you don't even drive.
So I love cars, and then I started looking for like a very sportive cars, very nice cars, the Aston Martin and the McLaren cars, and
Yeah, I mean,
that
look at this.
was so funny.
It's so
Yeah,
clean,
this
dude. Like it's so
Ferrari.
clean.
Yeah,
Are you?
I
Are you?
spend.
It's just reference photos,
Yeah, of course, because I learned how to do proper reference,
right?
and
From
then
the reference to the car.
yeah, you can buy the pictures,
The pictures. Yeah, yeah.
like
Of
the
course, of
vector,
course.
yeah, with the blueprints. It's called blueprints. They can like, and with different views, and then you put your views like front view, side view, and top view in Blender
In the
as the
viewport,
background.
and you start
Yeah,
tracing.
and you just start put the plane, and
Yeah.
then move the
Extrude,
vertices.
extrude.
It takes a lot of time, but
Yeah,
it's not like you cannot do it so slowly if you're a
of course.
professional. But at that time, I were only focusing on modeling, so I forget
Mhm.
about selling stuff, and I was thinking about quitting with my Catmac thing.
Really?
At that time, my idea was to become a modeler, a 3D
Mhm.
modeler, and look for jobs on the game industry or
Mhm.
the movies industry.
Mhm.
So I was completely focusing on modeling. I was looking at a lot of artists, and that area that time helps me a lot because being fully dedicated to modeling and to learn was something so useful that time invested in learning is the best thing I've done in my life regarding to learning new stuff,
Here.
because now I feel I can model mostly anything. It's like at the beginning it was like, okay, I can do like a model of a computer, a model of a mouse, a model of a phone, but then after that it was like, no, I can model.
Right. A whole
If you look,
environment.
and then you start to develop that ability of like seeing the
Seeing
wireframe.
some. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You see
Is
the
this
object, and if you analyze any object, you start to think about how to make the proper geometry.
yeah. So none of
And
this
this
is
is
kit bash? None of this is kit bash? Is all you modeled all of it? Or some of
yeah,
it's kit bash?
no, this example, here I am using because for these examples, I was this was like a year or 2 years after I
Right. So
started
you already
modeling.
know that you can model and now you're
Yeah,
kind of focusing
yeah,
on like
and then
lighting and aesthetic.
yeah, for these examples, for instance, the columns in the foreground and these pieces here in the foreground and
Mhm.
the night,
The night.
I took it from the internet.
Mhm.
The night is free.
I see
It's
it
from
says
a
right here.
Spanish guy
Yeah.
called Pablo Dominguez, who
Yeah.
is a beast on modeling.
Nice.
He's working for the best studios in the world,
Hell yeah.
and he's sharing these characters, also these
Mhm.
monks.
Mhm. Oh,
But
nice.
for instance, this one, I buy the trees. I take the model of the man on the sides from Sketchfab, but everything else is modeled by
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
the buildings in the
In the background.
background.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this is inspired in the Max High. Max High.
Max
This is
High?
a very young Max High. Is I don't.
It says inspired
It's
by
very
Asimov.
talented. Yeah,
Oh,
Asimov.
Max
I
Hay
read.
work. I got you. I got you.
I uh,
Max
yeah, I
Hay. Yeah,
read
it
a lot
says
of
Max Hay.
Asimov books.
I love
Max Hay,
Asimov.
yeah.
I was a huge Asimov nerd. I
Okay.
was a really big fan of his short stories. I didn't get like I read the first Foundation, but I didn't go further. I read the iRobot series, but I loved his short stories. He had these amazing short story compilations,
Like that's
and
yeah.
so good. There was one that was like fantasy. It was still like science fiction, but it was like the devil and angels and like magic. It was so crazy. It was like such a different style, but in his writing. I love
Uh-huh.
Asimov. He used to be my when I was a little kid. He used to be my background on my desktop was a picture of him in the chair. There's like a famous drawing of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I have my Asimov books over there. Yeah, as well.
Nice, dude. So good. Super nice. I mean, it's like, it's fascinating to see. It's also really interesting to hear that you use the same tutorial twice. It's so smart because you could have done another one, but if you do the same one twice, you get to see the progression and you get to have like, okay, this is what I did first and this is what I did after. And you, for yourself, for your own, for your confidence, you're like, oh, I'm really getting better. I think it's really smart way of doing things, and your level of 3D renders are just, I mean, for somebody who's only been doing it for a few years, it's spectacular, and it just goes to show that your understanding of aesthetic and lighting and texture and color and all these things involved are very high level.
I have to say something at this
Please.
point because. During this time, I've been looking at many artists in the world, and it changed a lot the way I perceive myself before that, because in the field of 3D games and movies, the expectations are much more higher than when you are an individual artist looking for, and then. If I am honest, I think my 3D skills are basic, and my lighting skills are basic, and I can find reason for saying that because I have no background in arts. I'm like an outsider, and it surprised me when people told me about my 3D skills are so good or so, because I don't feel so. I mean, I just feel like I can do these kind of things.
Yeah.
But when I compare myself to other artists, it's like I feel like I'm a student.
Yeah,
Okay,
I understand that. I understand. But that's like some good humility, and I appreciate that from you. But I'm also somebody who
sometimes it doesn't help me. Somebody tell me that I'm too much.
Humble.
I don't have to be so. Humble. I should. Humble. I should have better thoughts about my skills, but I cannot avoid that. I
get it. I get it. It's also the more
so
high.
Like,
yeah. And especially the more you start getting into it, and the more you see other artists, then you're like, oh, this is like I don't know how they do that, or that's crazy. But like I was gonna say, like I'm also somebody who studies a lot of 3D, and I know a lot of 3D artists, and I think that we're in an era where you don't need to go to school and study Maya to be a really high level artist. There's so many plugins, there's so many shortcuts, there's so many tutorials, and the render engines are just so good, and you don't need to know how to make a shader graph, right? Because you could just do a few clicks on a principal shader and you get something really nice. So I think that I appreciate your, let's not even say humility, right? Let's just say I appreciate you looking at like other artists and putting them on a pedestal. I think that's really, that's a sign of somebody who, again, understands their craft. But I will say that for somebody who doesn't have any education, and for somebody who doesn't like consider themselves a 3D artist, this is amazing. This is really beautiful. And yeah, like I know the plugin that you use, and I know the different techniques that were used, but it doesn't really matter because the end result is so beautiful. You know what I mean? So like, even if you're not a professional, the results are very high level. So yeah, you should feel confident about that. And I'm really excited to see, what you'll be doing with, this kind of 3D, because you kind of have already played with like Displacement, but I'm waiting for the Catmac visual pack that's like this, like a bunch of these, I don't know, these like fly through or kind of things like that. I think it'll be super cool.
Yeah, maybe I should, because I should apply those modeling skills to
Totally.
the loop. I have two displacing packs that are coming out this year. Tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Tomorrow? Oh, cool. Awesome. I'm excited. Like some textures.
Yeah. The last evolution of my displacements.
Animated or stills?
animated. Like
Oh, hell yeah.
look packs in Resolume. They're gonna be
Oh, got you.
released
Like display. Got you. Like
at
this
the end
kind
of
of
the
stuff.
year. Yeah,
So-
yeah, that. No, not like, but they are like an evolution of this displacements. Those were the first. This was the first time that I used Blender to make loops.
To make loops. I mean, but
Because
look at the quality, right? Look at the lighting. Look at the shadows. Yeah, ambient occlusion.
Ooh.
Is Displacement
Yeah, because
this one?
the difference in between After Effects and Blender was I
you
spent
can't.
like 1 year, more than a year, without making a loop in Blender because I didn't know how to do it.
Uh-huh.
But once I like feel comfortable with Blender, and the Blender is very easy to make loops. You can make loops in many ways.
Especially now with geometry nodes, it makes it even easier.
Yeah, geometry nodes. Yeah, I use geometry node, but not so much. Not so much. Yeah, I can use it for simple stuff like doing like filling a surface with objects. But
right?
It has very good feature. It's a bit difficult to get used to it.
Nodes,
but
you're not a node guy.
No, I mean
You could.
I love programming. I like programming. I have so much respect for that. But at the end, I need something more direct, connected to the output, the visual output. But for the things I do, those displacement maps, geometry node is actually not the best options. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, sure. I'm just interested, like when you do when you're rendering this, are you playing with it in Eevee? I guess you can't, right? Because it doesn't have the tessellation thing. But do you play around with anything real time, or is it all renders?
No, those are all renders. I tried sometimes to use in my workflow real time stuff. I've been using 4B. Is the one that I like. I have to take another round on it now that the Gamma version is like.
Yeah, they have a ray marching, the whole ray marching thing, right? With really nice rendering.
It's amazing the things you can get with 4B, or also with Touch Designer or with processing. But for now, I don't find a place to use them. That's why I don't use real-time software, because at the end I'm making loops or content for customers, and then I found much more easier to use Blender for productions than real-time environments. But it's always it's like modeling, like 3D modeling. Someday I should
jump
quit
into it,
everything and focus again on learning properly use of 4B or I think
you would love Unreal, because it's kind of like the same world as you're in, and it's very intuitive. Yeah, it's very intuitive with like the lighting and the texturing. Like you might not make a game or make like a VJ generative thing, but just putting your models and your textures inside of Unreal and rendering, like you know, it's half the speed or whatever, eighth of the speed. It's very very fast.
Much more faster.
And I think you would be able to, like, within a week, you'd be able to pick it up. Again, you might not be able to do like advanced things, but it's like the same, sequencer with the keyframes and lighting with lights and
I also started. I used Unreal like 6 or 7 years ago. I started using it for a while. Also Unity as well. That has the workspace is very similar to Blender or to After Effects.
I mean now it's different. I mean now you have the advancements in real-time rendering are insane. And Unity, like I never really got deep into Unity, but Unity is amazing for people that understand C#, like be able to code, because it's integrated in a very smart way, kind of like Touch Designer is. Unreal is much more like an After Effects or like a Blender, where it's like you don't have to do any coding, you don't have to do any blueprinting. You can, but if you just want to use it as a traditional DCC, like throw in a model, throw in a texture, throw in a light, animate, I think it's very, very straightforward to use. So I want to jump into your set now. I want to see what you have ready for us. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah. For instance, in this example, I got some loops that I made for a sessions that we made in Mexico last summer. I made some loops very fast, like this one. Kind of just simple geometry, simple lines. I made it with Blender, and here are my basic effects. I all the time use trails, heat for adding some color, edge detection, and for sure some feedback layers, because on all my sessions I ended up using feedback, because I love how it works. It's very simple, and then you never get to the same point. It always looks the same, somehow the same, but anytime you use feedback and use sound effects, you get different results, slightly different. And I love to play with the bright levels and contrast.
Are you that reaction diffusion? Is that running inside of Resolume? Is that a generative effect?
Yes.
Okay, well,
this is if you never
show us
use
how you do that.
It's very easy to use
reaction diffusion.
A reaction diffusion. I got many examples here of reaction diffusion.
Yeah, please. That's very interesting to see.
This is actually a patch, like who's called the guy who passed me a Resolume file with all those feedback settings, and I'm using it all the time to like the basis for my sessions. Sometimes I don't use all these feedbacks, but this is a basic feedback, and the key is to use edge detection and blur. You see here, there are different. Sorry, wait. Give me a second. Yeah.
Wow.
This okay. The idea is to use an edge detection, two edge detection with a blur in between to get this kind of reaction diffusion effect. And then if this at the end, this is very sensible to any change you make here. For instance, you can, if you change the type of and the edge
detection
from Sobel to Laplace, it changes a lot. In this case, I always use these settings, and then you start. If you move these values a bit, you can ruin the effect. So it is very sensible to the parameter values you are using. I use Control C.
Oh, nice! We can do Control Z. Hell yeah!
Yeah. It's gonna be impossible.
I don't think I've ever seen reaction diffusion in Resolume. But again, like reaction diffusion is like you take something away and add something, and then you get this reaction. So it's a very basic concept, right?
Yeah, it's a very basic concept. For this I don't know the name. I don't remember the name. I think Starian Visuals, the guy who talked to me about this reaction diffusion in Resolume, because I was using feedback to create fractals. If we make I mean, we're going to
That
start
I've done
from
before in Touch Designer. You can use feedback to make fractals. It's a very
feedback is very feedback
amazing.
here. We're gonna remove all these things, just like these lines. Also, okay. We're not seeing. That's I didn't prepare anything, so that's why.
Okay. It's interesting to see how you play.
See, and then with basic, yeah. We got a line here, basic line, and then
You singled it. You singled it. You singled the line. You singled the layer.
The key for. Sorry?
You singled the layer of the line.
Ah.
I think. Maybe
no.
Okay, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's working.
The key is to use a mirror effect.
Okay.
That you get with the value for x on .5. And then on the feedback layer, if you manipulate the scale, you start to have this kind of effects. And I always do this thing is like moving the fractal, the feedback layer to point and X and Y, and then start rotating it. And then from this point, it's like this is working now, but if you start...
Yeah, I saw the mandible for a second.
It's just a line. So, I mean...
It's crazy.
Yeah, wow, so, and every time you do it, and then you have to like opacity, using the right hand contrast to control the brightness. It's it's a mess right now. This is just an example, and those lines. Yeah, I should prepare something. Maybe we have to edit this part.
No. This is super fascinating.
I always get like stuck when I have to do it.
When you're like, on, when you're on.
Like do it now. It's like, oh, I have been doing this thing for.
Take your time. This is just watching you play is really amazing.
Yes. Listen. Yeah. So start with the lines. Again. Yeah, the position of the line. Yeah, position here. Start from the beginning. Yeah, from the beginning. This is setting and rotation. Okay, rotation. Then that's it.
Nice.
Yeah, the results are very simple because I'm starting with a line. But once you start, well, these effects are interesting by themselves.
Yeah. You look at all those crazy shapes you're getting in between as well, like all these circular kind of things. Whoa.
Yes,
crazy.
Yeah, we should reduce the length width. No, too bad. Yeah, look, I'm thinking about doing something different. Also the monkey here.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Yeah, this kind of basic effect.
But it's so effective, you know, this kind of like fractal
Yeah,
iteration.
you can play. It's just a line.
Just
So
a line.
yeah. There's an effect in this thing, and then we can also add some trails to the mix.
Whoa.
And if you spend some time like tweaking the parameters, and you
So
will
it's
get
literally a
unexpected.
line and a feedback, right?
Yeah, align the most basic kind of
And you're just
offsetting.
playing, kind of finding the right parameters to make something interesting. It's super fascinating. And obviously it's all generative. You can make it audio reactive for sure.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So I mean, like, so it's very fascinating because I you know, you're using Resolume in a way that most people would not use it. Some people, like I had a VJ Cobra. She was on a few weeks ago, and she also like does generative stuff inside of Resolume, and it's always fascinating to me because you know, I'm from Touch Designer and kind of this like not processing code but processing data, but you're getting like similar results inside of Resolume, which is a very simple and easy program to use. You know, I think it's very interesting.
It's super simple to start. I'm not happy with the results now because you know, always in live you get the
what is your, like, you've been with Resolume for a really long time, huh? Are you kind of like an evangelist with them, or not officially, but like
no,
nothing like that? You just have a good relationship?
I mean, I'm so familiar with the software that I feel like it's like home. But I usually don't recommend Resolume, apart from the fact that it's like a media server, that you can have a lot of things inside Resolume and use it. It's good for commercial projects as well, because it's very focused on performance, on live performance. You can do relatively complex mappings and prepare. So I'm just using Resolume because I'm familiar with it.
Right.
I don't know. I think there is no other reason for that. So it's like like a cousin that you know for a long time, and then you can just sorry. And I'm very used to it, but I know for sure that for procedural stuff and so on, it's like
it's not
there are
good,
other options.
Yeah.
But
I mean, seeing you do something like this, I mean, it's fascinating, you know. I mean, it's not like, okay, you're not happy with the result, but the concept is very interesting, you know. I think it's very cool.
Because I started using Resolume, and the first thing that I get really interested on was the effects, the 2D effects that come with the software. Right. And in this time of 3D stuff and AI things, I found really lovely to play with 2D effects, simple 2D effects, and with and also you can recreate like 3D stuff with the feedback. If you put the feedback just with a change in the scale, here we're gonna put everything to 0 again. Yeah, you get the basic feedback, and then you can like replicate 3D effects. Well, putting
like iterations or clones or something like that.
Yeah, if you like the effect on with the zoom, when you get the zoom in the browser, no, it's an iteration with the change in the scale. You recreate the sense of depth.
Yep. But it's you know, this is like kind of like the funnest part of generative stuff is the exploration. You know, is kind of finding what looks interesting, what looks fun. Like there's no like magic numbers, you know, it's always just like a playing thing.
And of course we can use the reaction diffusion that this is already made. I mean, not but you can play a lot with this. remove this.
Yeah, reaction diffusion is such a crazy thing.
See,
Whoa. And again, it's just feedback, right? It's just feedback
yes,
with
yes,
blur and edge detection. So, Marcus, I wanted to ask you,
yeah. Tell me.
let me know if this is too distracting while you're working, but what made you want to give away all your loops for free? Or not all of them, but what made you want to like start giving away loops for free?
I think it was the fact that realizing that people were doing so. Just that. I mean, I was taking his loops
Yeah.
and loops from others, and then I started doing so on Vimeo. And at some point, some friends told me that I got many followers, and then I realized that people are using them. And then at that point, I decided to, if people are using them, it's like, whoa, the same way I'm using others' stuff. So it just, that reason was the main reason. Just because of that, because once I realized that somebody is using them, and then I started to do it, and now we talk about that at the beginning. I
Yes.
feel proud of being of that my loops are used around the world.
Yeah.
So many people has write some lines to me like every week. Every week I have a message. Oh, I'm so grateful for this and so. And then I like it. I like that feeling of being useful for someone else. That my work is useful for someone else. I think that's enough. Of course, some people told me that I'm not gonna make money because at the end I have like 1,000 loops on sale, like 1,100 or so, and my freebie loops are more than 450.
Yeah.
So almost half of my production is there
It's
for free.
But like you said, I mean,
Yeah, it's not a good business, but
no,
I
but
don't care.
it's a way to create more interest. You know, you're democratizing something. The moment you democratize something, then you're creating more interest. And if you have both free and paid, then it's going to inherently make the paid more interesting because you have more people interested. So it's maybe not the best. It's not the way to get rich, but it's a way to get people interested in visuals.
It's a way to get rich for sure. But I admit, I didn't give a shit at the beginning because I put the same loops that I put on Vimeo. I put them on sale on some platforms, and sometimes there are over there. There's people who has paid almost like 100 euros or dollars for a piece that they could have for free on the from my own Vimeo site. Sometimes I think about it and just think, okay, this is not so much fair, but at the same time, I think if you have $100 and you want to spend your money in a loop, you can take it for free, or you can use Shutterstock.
Yeah, but also, I mean, like, you know, when I buy it, I'm getting a DXV, I'm getting a 60 FPS, I'm getting a 4K. You know, like on Vimeo, I'm just downloading a Vimeo link, so it's not. You know, it's definitely. I like the approach. I think that it's smart because, like you said, like Beeple did the same thing. Beeple's now very rich, right? But it's yeah, I think that it democratizes it, and when you democratize a market, you're creating more interest in the market. You know, obviously, if you gave everything for free, maybe it would be more difficult. But the fact that you have both, I think, is it allows people to support you as well.
Yeah, And yeah, one thing that I want to talk about is like now, well, since a lot of years, there is this kind of marketing strategy of offering free content and then offering like a premium content. So I discovered that after doing this. So at the beginning, it was okay. I want to start sharing for
like
free.
a Patreon or something.
Then I started selling them because I need money. But I never thought of sharing content as a way of getting sales. It was like we used to say, like completely organic thing, and it was like something that happened to me. But yeah, it's so I don't use this at the beginning. Yeah, I put like some advertisement on my Facebook, and so let's go to Big Hive and buy my stuff, or go to Resolume and buy my stuff. But at some point I decided not to mix those two different things. I mean, I don't advertise my content, the content that you can't buy. It's like I upload the content on those sites, and I forgot. So my social media character is just for the free content, and I don't care. I don't want to mix those two sides of my professional work.
Right, makes sense. Especially with clients, you don't want clients to see or they can see it if they find it, right? But it's not like in your face. But I mean, on your website, you have, you have a link to your Vimeo.
Yes, it's a new one. A new one. You mean the Catmac.art?
Yeah, Catmac.art.
Yeah, I did it like 1 month ago. I finally did my website. Yeah, man. Yeah. I was very lazy. I have to learn Unreal, and I have to
get a website.
Some years ago, a guy from Canada told me that he wanted to make my web for free, and I said no. I don't know why. And I spent like 5 years thinking about, that guy. What is that guy? I wanted to make my website for free. But yeah. Like 1 month ago, I take my time to make a very simple website.
It's very effective.
Because you need like some presentation for your work.
Yeah. Did you want to show us an After Effects project or a Blender project? Was that in the plan or not really?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay.
We can make like a basic displays using the technique I usually use. First of all, we can take a plane. We want to create a new material for this plane, and this is a very important step. You have to go to the material tab here and select. This is the birds of my work, so all of you can see how to make a displacement. Here, when you can bump only, you have to change it to the displacement and bump, or displacement only. Can make sure you are on Cycles and activate the experimental features and GPU compute to make it faster. Okay, so this is so easy. You are going to see how to make this is so easy. Okay, you need to add a displacement, vector displacement, and connect it socket to displacement. And any texture you connect to this node is going to displace in the
plane.
So wave texture, I love wave texture because you can loop this texture. You can face offset. You can make very easily. You can make a loop because 0 is 0, but p times 2 is a circle.
What? Oh, because pi. You're just doing a pi.
Yeah, and this is in radians. I think it's in radians.
That works.
If you go,
that's crazy.
from 0 to pi times 2, you get
You do 2 loops.
a full cycle on your texture.
Wow.
And if you connect this to the scale, to the height, sorry, we don't see anything because this is the texture, right? As it comes from Blender. And then we are only seeing the bright values. And if you change to the render viewer
We start seeing
and change
displacement.
this. Yeah. Let me change the word settings in order to have, yeah.
Just you don't have to subdivide the plane?
Yes.
I was wondering, because that's important, probably.
Yeah. This is, yeah. Sooner or later,
You'll get to it.
I'm nervous. I'm very shy. That's
come
why.
on. Don't be nervous. Don't be
Yeah.
nervous.
Yeah.
You're such
I have
a G,
to.
dude.
We have to add a subdivision here, and make sure we select adaptive subdivision. Put it in simple. That's how it works. You reduce the scale of the texture to like 0.5.
Nice.
And then you get, and this only works in the render view because it's a cyclist feature that it's been experimental like from almost
For
10
a
years.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always experimental.
They actually, I think they took it out of Blender 3.9. I remember one of the blenders, they took out the displacement and everybody was very upset. Yeah, also I think the adaptive subdivision is working together with the render, right? With the displacement, if I'm not mistaken. Do you always use adaptive? You don't actually subdivide it by amount?
Sorry?
Do you always use the adaptive scaling, or do you sometimes actually do like a proper subdivision?
No, I use adaptive sampling.
Nice.
Because if you want to get those fine details that I usually get, it's impossible. Even with 1 million polygons, you don't get those results.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then if you distort this and add some you are now seeing
some cool shit.
This is basically what I do.
Yeah.
Then you can like tweak those values and combine them with other noises, mix with other noises.
Nice.
Yeah. And
are those blacks? Are those blacks errors, or is that?
Yeah, it's like that is because on the viewport you can select the subdivision value is on 8. The dicing rate is on 8. I don't know exactly what 8 means in that size of the size of the micropolygons pixels. But if you render this, it's like very small. Good.
Careful.
You want to take a while. Or you easily get those more details. We can increase. Yes, we can increase the detail to have
detail roughness. Whoa. Looks like a mountainscape, like a valley.
Yes. That's basically what I do.
You just find like the proper values to get something that looks somewhat like nature or something.
Well, to make it realistic texture of mountains, I use another software, World Creator.
Oh yeah,
Do you know it?
Yeah, of course. It's a good one. You get really nice height maps from that.
Yes, that's basically because you can control.
It has like more physically based information, so you can do like erosion.
Yeah.
Different kind of like concepts of how nature actually works. Yeah, for sure. But it's funny because like the world creator it's just noises, right? But it's like some logic to the noise, but it's just funny how it's kind of in the same vein. I love this wave noise. I don't know if I know this one so well.
And so you can tweak the values to get the noise you want to. It usually takes more time to get the right amount of noise and displacement. But here you can see how easily you can get this setup running. And here you can animate this. You can do it with an expression, but it's like so as easy as making this here a loop, then type in pi times 2, and that's it. You got a loop.
That's it, huh? It's amazing.
So
pi
easy.
Times 2. Does that work with all the noises, or that's just this one because it has a phase offset?
No, only the wave noise. I think only the wave noise has this property of the offset. But you can also, if you are using another noise, you can rotate the noise.
Rotation, right.
So, you can take another. If you use map, you can rotate the noise here and then make a full circle here, like from 0 to 360, and then it's gonna loop. Not the way it loops. The wave texture is the better one. Is the best one to make.
It's phasing, yeah.
To make to phase it because it's bands, and then you offset the bands, basically.
Cool.
And this is the basics of my work. I almost every time start from this setting, and then I can elaborate this a little bit more and make it more complex and add some color. That's it basically. How to set up a displacement in Blender using cycles and adaptive sampling.
Super cool.
And it's very fast to render.
Yeah, cycles can be fast, right? Because it's GPU bound. Do you ever use like optics and mix them up?
Yes, I always use optics. Yeah, in the render configuration
settings. Yeah.
Yeah, here the noise in the noise, and
nice.
I always this is like a roll. And we don't need this level of dicing. You can put here 2, or you gonna get even
a higher value. A higher value is faster.
Means less details. Less details, yeah.
Right, because it's
bigger. Most of the time, with 2 you are okay. I think this kind of this is designed to make like displacement for surface for characters and details of the skin and so on.
Details,
but skin details, but for terrains and for abstract displacement, it's amazing. Well, it's very funny.
Displacement is a very cheap, quote unquote cheap effect, because you are adding a lot more polygons, but it's happening directly on the GPU. Whereas I guess any displacement would happen on the GPU, but this is a very known gaming technique where they'll do displacement maps instead of actually displacing the geometry. It just it's faster on the GPU for sure. This is obviously like very detailed, so it's not going to ever probably run real time, but you can definitely get close to real time results with displacement. I
would love to have a control, real time control. If I have a software that can handle this kind of displacement on real time, I think I could have a very good live session. Because
Well,
I
guess
always
what? You
feel
can
that I
have
would like to.
you can in Unreal they have displacements. Now they just added in 5.4 they added displacement and tessellation for nanite. So it basically it's similar. It's not like the same as this where you're getting like an adaptive resolution, but you can get extremely high tessellated planes or whatever models in real time because of nanite. I don't know if you're familiar with nanite, but nanite basically takes whatever the camera's seeing, and it breaks it up into polygons and makes it very fast for the GPU. So they just added tessellation and displacement, and you can do it in real time. It's obviously you're not going to get as detailed as this, but you could probably get pretty close. They use it a lot for like for the ground, like mud or snow or things like this. And like if a character is walking across the snow, so it displaces it. That's kind of what it's being used for. But I'm sure you could do some really interesting, like feed it a video of a noise or something like that. I'll play with it and get back to you and see how it is, if it's viable.
Nice. Sure. Yeah, because sometimes I would like to go back to the scene, to the live scene, and especially having been in this festival that I attended last weekend. I sometimes feel like, if I have the chance to have these things on real time, like if I have a lot of ideas of how to make it react to music, and it would be very impressive to be like different shapes and different noises reacting to the music. And maybe I should do it.
Well, I mean, real time is definitely, it's definitely the future, just because, I mean, even Resolume, Resolume's adding all these wire features so it becomes more procedural, but I mean, like, just the software trends now. Touch Designer is so big now. Everybody's using it. You have Synesthesia, which is very big now. And Unreal is being used more and more and more in visuals at the top, right? Like the world that I'm in, virtual production, we're filming movies with Unreal, and they're using Unreal in stage concerts and things like that. It's not all real time, by the way. Sometimes it's rendered, but they're using the real time for previs. They're using it for rehearsals, and then maybe they'll, render it out. But I mean, it's definitely here to stay. And I will mention Notch, even though I'm not a big fan of Notch, but Notch is pretty synonymous with visuals. I think that it's a lot of people are buying it. Not my first recommendation because it costs money, but it's definitely a good program. So Marcus, we're gonna get to the end here. It was super nice to see your workflow. I know you weren't happy exactly with the way it turned out, but I thought it was very interesting. And I think that people will be very interested to see different ways of using Resolume, and of course, seeing how you do your techniques in Blender. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's very generous of you. I wanted to kind of ask you two kind of end questions, and they're a little bit esoteric. Please feel free to take them where you want. The first one was, you kind of started VJing at such a early time, 2007, playing around with feedback, playing around with mapping. Now it's kind of like a very common and, big and kind of, it's mainstream. People know what visuals mean, especially in America. I could tell you, I was just at a festival in Florida, Sewanee, and, the VJs are on the lineup. People are so interested by visuals. Tons of people came up to me, recognized me from the podcast, which I was kind of interested. It's very fascinating. But there's a lot of understanding of visuals. What is it kind of for you? What has it been like to see it kind of go from this super experimental kind of playful thing to a huge industry?
So can you repeat the question again, please?
Sure. Well, for you, seeing visuals growing and becoming more and more and more standard in concerts, in mainstream, in kind of like the zeitgeist, what has it been like for you to see it going from something so simple to something so big?
what is what do I think about it? About that
Yeah,
process?
like kind of, feel free to take the question where you want, but yeah, I mean, like, again, like you kind of started off playing and now it's a career, now it's like a totally viable business. What's the feeling of that? How does that, where does that meet you?
It's quite a coincidence to me to be part of that. Because at the beginning it was like something completely underground. I started doing it from home, and then I feel very lucky to be part of this, and it's very good for us. All this. See this field growing is amazing for us, because I never imagined at the beginning. But it's true that the screens are all around more and more.
Yeah.
So we are becoming a very visual society, and then of course I understand why this field is getting more and more important in all festivals, and also in even in television. If you see TV shows like this kind of singing shows, or you can see the same setups that you can see in a festival. It's like, and everybody is becoming familiar with that. Mm-hmm. So we're very lucky to be there from the beginning, no? Because
totally.
When I started 2007, when I was in 2007. It was the present, not the past, like now. And now it's like, from 2000, since 2007, but it's been like, it's it's funny, and I hope I can do it for the rest of my life. I think.
Hell yeah.
I hope to. I don't know. Sometimes I want to quit, because it's difficult to make a living out of this, especially in my case, because I work, as I said at the beginning, like in my cave, doing my stuff, and sometimes it can be a month without knowing about anything. And then those times I start to think that I should find a job, a proper job. A proper job is like, but this is a proper job, but it takes time to be confident about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a navigation. But I think that, you're you're a great example and inspiration to kind of like just keep on going with what, you're good at, with what you like, with what you enjoy, continue experimenting, exploring. And, a lot of times those things kind of make things happen, It's kind of like, I always believe in manifestation, and kind of like, the idea of dreaming things to make things happen, whether you believe in it on a spiritual level or not. I think that just sitting in your cave and working and making art and doing things and having this idea in your head, like, oh, this is going to do something, it's going to be something, that creates it, I really believe in that. So psychology. Right, the psychology of a VJ. Like, what does that phrase mean to you? Like, what is the psychology? What's wrong with us? Like, why are we so fucked up? VJs.
Psychology. It's very fascinating how the crowd, how the people follows or look at or listen to the only person that is alone with the computer and the machine. It's very similar to the musicians from the early ages of since centuries, no? The performer who is the only person who is not engaging in social communication, direct communication, but at the same time is communicating to the crowd. Mm. So this role of that person doing their stuff, his higher stuff, alone with the instrument or the machine, the computer, is very interesting. And I would say that at that moment you are kind of a special person, in the sense of it reminds me to I don't want to use some words because I don't want to be offensive. But when the weirdest people on the room is the center of attention.
Right.
So you can be, everybody's dancing, everybody's taking drinks and taking whatever, and you are there with your computer, just with your computer. That's very, very weird, very weird.
Yeah,
And
very
DJs
weird.
are especially more special than DJs because we are most
In
of
the
the times
back.
alone.
Yeah, in the back.
In the
Yeah.
back or
Yeah.
in the dark.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I'm very shy person, and I don't have to prove it with words. I just prove it with my behavior on the venues, the parties. I take my computer and I spend hours like now, like just a moment before I wasn't. I was disappointed with the output from Resolume, but I will stay there like an hour, and I'm gonna get to the point of where I want to get.
Yeah.
I need time, and this is very curious that in the middle of the party, there's some guy who is trying to so
Make
nerdy,
something. Yeah, so nerdy.
but needs to make something with the computer right now, just right now with it. At this time at night. So we are
Right,
a special persons
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. What do you think it is? What do you think it is? I mean, it's like, I know for myself personally, it's a problem solving, right? Like I have a problem and I want to solve it, and the way that I'm solving
Yeah.
it is like through art or through design or
Is
through something
that
like this.
part, and also you have the opportunity to express yourself,
Expression.
and
Yeah.
maybe you cannot do it in other way, and the people is expecting.
Oh, I lost you there for a second.
You, so the people is going attending the music, so you are in
just
the
one
right
second.
place. That
I lost you,
special
I lost you.
person.
I lost you. It's getting all very choppy. One second. Let me kick you out of here. You're frozen. You're still frozen. Oh. Can you hear me? I lost your I lost your sound. Are you muted? Are you muted or something? Oh yeah, you're muted. You're muted. Go to Zoom and unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Here we are.
sorry. You were on a roll. You were on a good roll there. You were saying that that it's unique, that we're kind of like just kind of sitting there in the dark, and it's a very kind of weird place to be while the party's happening and everything's going on, and it's an expression, right? Maybe you can express yourself in other ways.
Yeah. And now with big screens and big setups, I love the chance to have like the space, to manipulate the space,
Yeah.
to create immersive feelings, control the lights, control the whole scene, and this is also very very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you got like the power of making space. It's very it's also very architectural.
Manipulation. Yeah.
Manipulate light and space to create whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, especially now that I'm doing DOMs, and I'm learning a lot from doing DOMs, because it's like you have the whole space for you. You can put the people in whatever space you want, and I'm applying this knowledge to the regular flat screens, like trying to push the perspective and create a very strong perspective that create the illusion of being in another place. Wow, this is that I really like as well.
Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah.
So do you think that there is an underlying psychological thing that, like, obviously it's not going to be for everybody, but do you think there is like some sort of like, it's like almost like a weird narcissistic maybe, or like egocentric, but in a weird place where
not different from any other professions or performers. Yeah.
But it is different because we're not in the front. We're not like a dancer, a singer, a player. They're being watched, right? We're like in the back.
Most of the time is I wouldn't say that there is a common factor between all VJs or visualists. From my side, I know I can recognize that most of the times I prefer to stay on my computer than with the people.
Of course.
Because I am the typical guy who doesn't want to dance all the time. I'm so shy. When I start dancing, I cannot stop. But it's very hard to start for me to start dancing. But once I start, it's like
you need the right.
If I start dancing, and then I cannot stop. But it only happens very very often. Not very often.
It's fascinating. It's very fascinating because like I love dancing. I don't want to be in front. I think if I was a DJ and I was being watched the whole time, I wouldn't like that. I like being in the dark, but I also do like the idea of the party and kind of like socializing and, the idea of being together with people. But when I'm VJing, it's so separate, right? Like I'm focused. I can't, it's a different type of enjoyment. So it is very interesting, like the psychology of like what the reason is to like, okay, it's different when you're just playing around in your house, right? You're playing around, it's fun, it's art, you're having a good time experimenting. But then going from that to like, okay, I'm going to go perform at a show or I'm going to do a dome show or whatever. The jump is very different, it's a very different thing. And I wonder if people realize the difference between like being in a front of house and performing versus just like, making visuals at home. I think that a lot of people don't realize the amount of stress or the amount of confidence that you need to have. Even if you're not being watched the whole time, you still need to be like very in it, right? You need to be like, you need the time, like you said for yourself, you need to take the time to make something happen and make it beautiful. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation, Marcus. It was really nice talking to you. I'm happy we got it to work, even though it took us a long time. I definitely want to have you back on in the future. I think that there's a lot more for us to talk about. And you have such
I'm going to prepare a session.
Okay.
Not for guys right now. And for sure, sorry for my English because I don't used to speak so much in English. I read English, I hear, understand English, but not so much on speaking.
Your English is perfect. Your English is perfect. I understood everything.
I can't find the words. It's like I want to express some ideas, but I can't find the words. It's like a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I also enjoyed the conversation. It's been a pretty good time.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Marcus.
And we can do it again in the future.
I hope so.